So the late night crew is dusting off the resistance playbook once again. So David Letterman just crowned Jimmy Kimmel as the leader of the anti-Trump movement. And right on cue, last night, Jimmy Kimmel was raising concerns about President Trump's health, despite previously not questioning former President Biden's. Watch.
Something is wrong here. The guy who's running our country is being given unscheduled dementia tests. He's been given MRIs. He has mystery bruises he's covering with Maybelline. And we're supposed to accept this idea that he's some cross between Chris Hemsworth and Albert Einstein.
You're aware of the fact that you are the leader of the resistance?
I am the totally ineffective leader of the resistance.
No, I'm going to suck up to you because I feel like if I kind of tag along with you, I'll be glorified in retrospect.
That comes as the New York Times continues to lean into this weird coverage of the president's health, despite numerous public appearances. A new opinion piece is titled, "Trump's approval ratings have declined. So has his vigor." This is an interesting beat to be on. Lawrence, I feel like watching the Democrats try to generate this narrative about Trump's health is like when, in Little League, when you have a team that's losing by 40, and you still have to pretend you care, and like you're trying. That's what they're trying to do.
It's so sad. And, on the face of it, you see the president every day. He's going cross country. He never sleeps. He's making jokes about people. He's doing press conferences, rallies now. And so most of the American people, even the ones that may disagree with him, they still think that he's alert there, especially when you compare him to the last.
Yeah, right.
So, but the second thing is when you don't address something in your own house, right, and then it happens at your neighbor's house, you can't say anything about it. You cannot say anything about it. Even if the president had some cognitive functions that were off, Democrats in the media lost their ability to talk about it because they said absolutely nothing until the president of the United States literally fell apart on a stage. So. I do think it's sad, but I also think it's great for the president because the longer they speak on that and not the issues that matter, it's a win for him.
So, Kenny, when you're talking about like the president travels around a lot, in June of 24, when you had Biden come back from a NATO meeting, and then he took 10 days off before the debate. Right. Remember, and that people and his team kept saying, well, that's because he has jet lag, and yet the media didn't say anything about it, and then they were shocked on the night of the debate.
Well, also, take into consideration what President Trump does after an international trip. So can I tell a story out of school?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we're not on camera, so say anything.
Very good. So I was talking to one cabinet secretary, and I asked him, is it true that the president doesn't let people sleep on these international flights, that he wakes people up in the middle of the flight, no matter what time it is, no matter what time zone? And he said, and I won't say, he said another cabinet secretary took a completely different plane home from Europe because he was so desperate for sleep. He knew that if he didn't, President Trump was going to keep him awake the entire flight, asking him questions about what they had just achieved.
Well, and then now you can report that.
Right.
Times. Harold, maybe the Democrats think that this is a winning issue for them, but it feels very niche and fringe.
I don't think Democrats do. I would agree with you. I think the press should be, I agree with you guys 100%. If you're going to be critical of President Trump, this is a guy that takes questions, has an opinion on every issue, including who should merge and not merge in the private sector. He hurls invective with the best of them. He answers questions late at night, holds press conferences in the morning and at night. There's no question. As you compare him to any president in my lifetime, I've not seen a president who has exhibited more energy and more willingness to take on tough questions. There have been one or two times where he's not come forward, but 98% of the time, this guy is available. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but that's not the criticism. If you want to be critical on the issues. There's enough, I believe, there to ask the president about, including, I listened to David Letterman. I love David Letterman. I'm 55 years old. He was my late night guy when I was in college.
I failed high school because of him.
Look, he looks a little different than he did before with the beard, but he's still hilarious. The real leader of the resistance, as we sit here today, is the Indiana State Senate, which is led by Republicans, which resisted the maps that the president wanted. Republicans joined Democrats. But focus on the issues. The pettiness of the personal stuff, I just don't get. And particularly when you have egg on your face, you are exactly right. No one, when we all knew what was happening with President Biden, no one raised the question. It took a national debate for us to watch, for us to say, you know what? this is not the guy who should be president for the next 4 years. Leave that issue alone and get to the substance, to the economics, to the affordability, to people not being able to get their wages raised. That's what's on people's minds, not whether or not he's healthy. This guy makes himself available like no president we've seen.
And I don't think that they actually care about his health.
No.
I think that they think it gets under his skin,
And it
so they want
does.
to bother him.
It does get under his skin. And he's very sensitive. But you know what? The thing is, there's a lot of funny stuff to make fun of Trump about, but there's so much other funny stuff to make fun of the Democrats. Gavin Newsom put his legs behind his head. Did you see that? That photo he put out?
Real?
I thought it was fake.
Oh, I thought it was real. I mean, it's like a Kama Sutra position. There's a lot of material there. You didn't see it?
It's fake.
No, that's real. He's flexible. We are blowing up cocaine boats, boats filled with kilos of cocaine, and the Democrats are saying stop. Like there's jokes there.
Right.
Sri, the Indian congressman that yelled at Noam, he's got eyebrows like caterpillars. You think I haven't noticed those eyebrows? I mean, these guys are ridiculous. These are professional comedians.
We're all thinking it.
We're all thinking it. I mean, look at those eyebrows on Sri, not me. I don't know. There's so many funny things. The Somalians are stealing billions of dollars and buying Porsches. Right? These guys write jokes for a living. I mean, I could come up with a joke, but I'm not that funny. But these guys should do it.
Did you just talk about that man's eyebrows?
Yes.
While waving your thick eyebrows?
I just got mine trimmed, too.
You're right.
Who trims him? Is that Johnny?
Johnny trims them.
Yeah, good job, Johnny.
There's too much personal stuff in politics. Stay with the
And
issues.
what
man.
I really like also is you see how stealth Harold is when he drops these little bombs.
Oh, yeah. The Indiana
Like, these
Senate.
little Indiana
Yeah,
idiots.
little Indiana.
It's good. It's
Stop.
clever, and I
I'm
admire
sorry,
it.
the facts are uncomfortable.
I admire it. You're a good counselor.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.